microphone on. There we go. Test, test, test. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's not supposed to be coming out with speakers. Okay, I'm getting it. I just got to get my speakers working. It's working. You can pause it. Hold on.
Well, you're right on time, Tom.
Yeah, but can I focus? Can I see?
Oh, that's pretty. I went out and looked at it earlier.
Did you?
Nice, isn't it? What do you think of that, Steve? Nice.
He wants to come down and sit there and with the contracts and roll it out. Yeah. If we get to the 26, we can push it to the second. Jamie, how you doing? Do you have your PowerPoint? Do we have it? She has it? Yeah.
Okay, and they're signed by the supervisor. I think I will. I'll start with them here, but then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. That's first on the agenda.
Do you want to put your input in?
bunch of little kids out there with their toys and just left them.
Oh yeah, then we keep them recreation. That's a pretty obvious line too. Real obvious line. It really shows you got a lot of recreation.
Those fit.
Those are 30 on 6.
Oh, 30 up. What are they doing? Laying down sideways?
Hey Jim, we don't have to, there's no action. We have to approve the capital display.
Someone's been sitting in my chair. Julie has long legs.
Yeah, so those are not going to be able to
I think so.
have 5,000. I've got 4 or 5,000 rounds.
Steve Devils just eligible to minor tweaks in the market.
7,000, over 1,000 rounds.
Last weekend.
Rifleables. Red rifleable.
Eric.
I'm going to take that whole fence down. I was going to try to hide back there. Of course, I'd take out the guy's house, too.
Yeah.
I think it got awful quiet, Stephen.
Sure did up there. Get up there.
Again, this high-tech thing is
President accounted for. Good morning. Welcome to the August 12, 2008 meeting with the Tulare County Board of Supervisors. And it's really nice to see so many smiling faces out there this morning. If you would, please stand and join the board and I as we salute the flag, and then remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, we have lots of interesting things on our agenda this morning. Probably some more interesting than others, but we won't decide that right now, which is the most interesting. Maybe we can do that at the end of the meeting. But we would like to begin this morning with a presentation of the Career Connection program, and we're going to recognize some of the participants in that. And Mr. Peck, as I see you moving forward, it's my understanding that you have a presentation to make this morning. Yes. And some other folks with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisor, CAO, Council. We'll keep it brief this morning. I know you have a full agenda, but we really wanted to take the opportunity to thank the board and recognize some of the young people that were involved in the Career Connections program this past summer. through a $100,000 investment by the board and leveraged with the funds of the Workforce Investment Board, 64 young people received 130 hours of paid work experience in 12 county departments. They also received an enrichment day where, just beyond even the training they were getting in each of the departments, that they learned life skills, job safety, career exploration, work readiness, a bunch of other things as well. So we just like to be able to reflect at the end of the summer on the good work that was done and the great experiences that were had by the youth given this investment. As always, I'd like to recognize the partners involved in that process beyond the Board of Supervisors making the investment and the Workforce Investment Board coordinating it, staff from HR&D, and then CSET and Tulare County Office of Education. Staff played the primary role in operating the program and getting the wages to the kids and coordinating. I'd like the staff from C and CSET to stand and take some credit for their hard work in that process. And then a few of the young people who participated this summer wanted to say just a few quick words, so I'll bow out and let them have a few words.
That's fabulous. We can hear those instructions up here. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Walter. I'm 18, and I have a year that I've worked under the CF. Well, I have a year that I used to work under. Now I'm working in the same place, which is the RMA Surveyors over there in the Government Plaza. I've been working there for a good time, well, pretty much a year, I would say. And I've been pretty much scanning maps, helping out with my pretty much my boss. I would help him out because he would need a lot of maps, so I was scanning for him, and I helped him out a lot. So I've done a lot of work there, and he's appreciated it a lot. So he's pretty much, enjoying. And he's also liked my hard work. So he also hired me under their, I guess the county. I guess I would say I'm part time now.
I think your personality may have something to do with it too, because you seem like a pretty cool guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I've been working there for a good time, so, and I like it there. It's better than, since I used to work in the fields, and it's a much more refreshing place, of course.
And that's a very, you should be in politics. That's a very good choice of words.
Yeah, it is better, since my parents also brought me up. They want me to work hard for what I want to get, so I saw the opportunity, and I just took the step forward, and I said, better than working in the fields, I'm going to go on and, keep on moving up. So now I'm going to COS, and I also have a little boy in 3 months, and and I had to, of course, get diapers, so I had to provide.
The president of COS is here, and he's very glad to hear that.
Yeah. And so far, this has been a good opportunity for me, and it's opened a lot of doors for me. So I'm appreciative of the CU's program that has done a lot for me, and pretty much that's what I gotta say.
Thank you, and well said it was.
Hi, my name is Selena Chang, and I worked at the Tulare County IT, and I have just recently been hired as an extra help there, and I'm now making $10 an hour. I'm very proud to have been working there, because if I hadn't worked there, I hadn't learned all the things I've learned about business and what should be what and what business really is. And it's nothing that you just take for granted. Like, one thing I learned, like what they said, is that you're making $10 an hour now. You just can't sit and get nothing for it, So I've learned a lot, and I'm very thankful to my supervisors, Peg Yates and Jennifer Smith Robles. And I've matured very well from there, and I've learned a lot. And there were some things that I didn't know that they could do, and there were a lot of interesting things that I have learned. And I'm very thankful. And my goals for the future are to, after graduating from high school, I'm going to attend COS and probably get a job in the automobile industry. And I just want to give my special thanks to the C Youth program for funding this wonderful experience that I have achieved so much from. And just a lot of thank yous to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Diego Aguilera. I worked at the Sheriff's Department headquarters in the Records Division, and it was pretty interesting some of the days how people would show up, but I learned that everyone...
Or were you reading the records? Is that what made it interesting? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
Well, I learned that no matter who you are, even though I was just right there for temporary, that it requires everyone as a teamwork to get everything in order and do all the filing and stuff. That's what I got to do, file the records and stuff. And also, I would assist and go to the warehouse and find old cases. And I was also used as an interpreter, which was pretty interesting with some cases. I thought I knew Spanish well, and some cases I wouldn't understand what they were saying because they would try to mix English and Spanish together. And but I enjoyed it, and it was very good stuff I learned. And it's like in the past, I remember I would always try to get a job, and they wouldn't hire me because they say, "Oh, you need experience. Oh, you don't have enough experience." But I would think to myself, well, how am I going to get experience if they don't hire you? And thanks to the C program and you guys, I got the opportunity to now have experience. So in the future, when I actually apply for a job, I could say, oh, I do have experience. Look at this. And I would thank you guys for funding the program and the C program for giving me the opportunity to actually have a job first time ever. And thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hi, I'm Michael Villarreal. I'm currently a vocal performance major at COS. I'm going to start my second year pretty soon. And I was located at the Tulare County Animal Shelter, which was pretty interesting because I've always wanted to work at an animal shelter just to see how procedures were and what actually went on there. And I kind of had an interesting day because one of my coworkers let out 6 cages of dogs. And so we kind of had a mayhem my first day. And it was really fun. Like throughout the whole time I spent there, I really worked by myself because they trusted me right from the get-go that I was able to do everything that they demanded of me. And some of the things that they had me do were pretty like labor intense. Like I had to carry cat litter, organize cat litter, organize dog food, dump dog food out, dump cat food into the barrels. I had to do everything from cleaning the cages to cleaning food bowls and filling them up and feeding. And it was just a really interesting experience, and I just want to thank everybody from the Board of Supervisors to the C Youth program for just giving me this opportunity.
Michael's a former Madrigal at Dyneville High School, by the way. Too.
Yeah, my junior year I actually sang here when we went to Austria.
And we actually remember, and it was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Amy Macias. I'm kind of nervous.
Don't be nervous. It's okay.
I have worked for the county for 3 years. This is my 3rd summer returning. I am extra help. I'm a community development technician at the time. I started off with the C Youth program, which helped me a lot. I didn't have a lot of experience under my belt, so it helped me gain experience so I could decide what I want to do with my future. I am currently going to start my sophomore year at San Jose State, and every summer and winter I come back, and Bill Hader's nice enough to give me my part-time job back, and I really enjoy it. I've learned a lot. I started with code compliance as the youth forum member, and it was interesting. You learn a lot from them, and from that department, and then I moved on to clerical work, and I worked more in the administration, more just answering the phones and receptionist kind of stuff. And so currently from then, I've moved my way up to community development, and I really enjoy it. It's opened a lot of doors for me. It's a different department, it's different work, but it's interesting, and I like it. And I'd like to thank all of you guys, and I'd like to thank everyone I work with who is very supportive of me, and of course the program which helped me get this job of employment. So thank you.
Right, thank you.
My name is Octavio Seves, and I worked at the Vasella Healthcare Healthcare Clinic. And my experience was great. I didn't expect working at a clinic because I'm terrified of the sight of blood. But luckily, I didn't get to see any blood. I just worked the medical records. And my experience was really great because the people there were really happy and really optimistic. And every time we come in, they always say hi and greet us. So the experience with the people that work there was really great. And if I could do this again, I would do it again and again if I could.
Great, thank you. And now you have experience. Okay, we were saving you, huh?
Yes, for last. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Vito Barboza, and I'm from Farmersville. They had me working for the Tulare County Fire Department there in Farmersville, and it was a great experience. First, I just liked the environment, the people I was around. It was all great. They had me working at the service center in Woodville for a minute, supplying the firefighters with whatever they needed. And I like helping people as well, so it was great for me. I also was working in the administrative office there in Farmersville, doing data entry in the computers, filing. So I've gained a lot of experience that now I can use in the future, to get a job. And I just want to thank each and every one of you, for giving me the opportunity to, experience this. I thank you all very much. It has helped me a lot, to speak with, just as well as speaking with you now, it's made it easier for me. And I just feel much prouder of myself, and I just feel more confident, and I could do what I have to do now. So I just want to thank you again, and I appreciate all the funding and everything. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any desire to be a firefighter some way?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. A lot of people were trying to get me involved for volunteering, so something, it's a possibility.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you very much. Well, Board, we do have, we have some certificates for some of those that were here. Now, our trustee assistant, Jed, has given me, I believe, 5, but I'm counting more than 5 participants, so I don't know what we're going to do with the others. Jed, I'm assuming we have certificates for everyone somewhere? Yes, I'm calling you forward and blaming it all on you.
We do have certificates for all the participants in both programs. However, there was only 5 up there.
Okay.
But the remainder are back there.
Well, I'm going to give these to the supervisors whose district is represented. Supervisor Wordley, if you would like to present these. Sure. Supervisor Cox. Supervisor Ennis, you and I are left out.
Okay. There you go, Phil. Field Marshal. I guess I haven't got anybody over my area needs a job.
I don't want to say that out loud, but yeah. Well, thank you, supervisors, and I think we appreciate your comments about the work, and I think a round of applause is in order. Yes, we'll give everybody a chance to comment. You don't get to go first,
That's
Supervisor.
fine.
I'm
That's
going
fine.
down to Supervisor Innes.
Oh, great. Well, I think it's a great program for many reasons, but so many times kids get out here and they're going to school, they're students, but they really have no idea what they want to do or what they want to be. With programs like this, they can go out, they can get that experience and say whether they want to do that job or maybe they don't want to do that job. Maybe they can go to a different department, but it's also a good way for us to introduce people to the county and hopefully bring more people into our big family. So great program, and congratulations to everybody that was involved in it. Thank you.
Supervisor Rashida? I know you're always recruiting.
Yes. Well, last year when we expanded this program, I believe that we saw that the potential that we had with our youth in Tulare County, and I'm glad it worked out to be a very positive program. We have a philosophy that there are opportunities in Tulare County, and there are opportunities in employment with Tulare County. So we wanted to expose as many people as we could, not only to work ethics, but to the career opportunities to stay employed with Tulare County. And I'd like to really thank the people who monitored this program and put it in place and made it work. Thank you very much for all your hard work. And I can see from the smiling faces the positive results that we receive from this program. And I thank my fellow supervisors for expanding this program, and hopefully we can do even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Okay, Supervisor Ridley.
Well, I just wanted to say, it was, when I came on the board, we had a program, and then when we had some very difficult times, we had to stop the program. And fortunately, during my chairmanship, that we were able to reinstitute the program. But what I wanted to say was, it's so much bigger and better a program today than whenever we had it before. And it's because of the partners that we have that are involved in the process of not only giving kids jobs, but teaching them what it means to be job ready, that sort of thing. We didn't have all that before. And so it's a great experience, I think, for these kids, not only that they have a job, but also the training that comes along with that. And so we saw that demonstrated this morning by the young people coming forward. And as Mr. Ishida pointed out, 1/3 of our population is between the ages 0 and 19. So what a great place for us to try to reach out into our community, because we do have a lot of needs in this county in terms of filling positions. And so I heard a lot of optimism by the people who are coming forward about how they're going to take this opportunity and advance their educational careers and so forth. And that's really very exciting for me to see that happening. So congratulations to the participants and to those who helped to bring this into fruition. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Cox?
I'll make mine real short. I noticed a grin on President Scroggins' face every time I heard the word COS, and that seemed to be a common theme, is that a lot of these youth have been inspired to go into further education. So I'm excited to see that, and I think that comes from the mentors, the people that these young people are able to work with in the county departments they go into, and how they understand that education is a key. I had a discussion yesterday with President Scroggins about the importance of being able to read, and how reading is the key to doing just about anything you want to do in life. If you can read and comprehend, you can accomplish anything. And I think giving these young folks the opportunity to experience different jobs, I think Amy talked about this being her third summer here, and the different organizations and areas she was exposed to, and I think it's a great opportunity to expose these people to work and what it's really like. But as they're doing that, they also see their supervisors and their supervisors and their boss, and realize that the key to being at the top of that food chain is education. So congratulations, wonderful program, and I look forward to expanding it. 130 hours is just not enough. We found that out in our office this year.
Thank you, Supervisor. Well, I'm so appreciative, first of all, for the program and all of those that made it happen, CSET, the WID, and all of you. But to those that spoke today, I'm so very impressed. Of course, I've often laughed and agreed with, I can't remember which one of you said it, about how are you going to get a job if you don't have experience? They want you to have experience till you get one. And I certainly agree with that. But if this program is any indication, if your presentations this morning, then we're doing a great job. I'm wondering, did you say her name? Amy, do we have her on a contract yet? You know, part of the price of coming back every summer is when you finish college, you know, you're bound to come back and work for us. At least that's what Supervisor Ishida would like to see. But, you know, like Supervisor Worthley, I was here when we had the program in the past. And it was successful too. I mean, it was an opportunity, but I just see such an expansion and more attention to detail. And the one other thing I wanted to remember was the young man that said it was working teamwork. It was working together and being part of a team. And I think that's so important. So congratulations to everyone that has had a part in this and who has touched this program. We are grateful and we are very impressed.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I make a brief comment on behalf of department heads?
I don't know in your legal status how brief you can be, Madam Counsel. But I suppose, yes.
I'm so impressed hearing these young people, and I'm so glad that the experience was good for them, but I just wanted to point out they really perform a benefit for the county. Work gets done that might not otherwise get done. And so they really help us. I'm glad we help them, but they help us, and they're really serving the public by what they do.
Did you have a student?
I did. We have a student every year, at least one, sometimes more than one. And I'm not sure that we convince them that they want to be paralegals or lawyers or whatever, but we certainly show them how to work in an office, I hope, and how to be part of a team. But they definitely free up. You know, they can do tasks at their level that free up maybe more skilled people to do projects that just sit because of, you know, time constraints in the press of business.
I often heard the dreaded filing word come out of their mouth.
Filing, yes.
Filing, copying, answering phones, those are all important things.
Part of the training. I don't want to leave you out, Mr. Rousseau. You have anything to say?
Well, our office also used a student. Her name was, I believe, Jeanette. She did a great job. We wanted her to come back for additional hours, but she wasn't able to do it. But we're definitely pleased with the program. It has been run well out of WIB with Adam doing a good job, and we look forward to continue it in the future years.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, with that, thanks again. Okay, well, it's nice to have a good news morning, although we haven't gotten too far into the agenda yet. But I'd like to move next to item number 2 on our agenda, and this will be a presentation on the status of the Capitol Display Project. It's being prepared by the College of Sequoia's architectural design students. And Mr. Coyne, as you moved up, I'm assuming that you're going to lead off this presentation for us.
Thank you. One of the first things that the board told me when they appointed me tourism manager is we need to work on
something.
Yes, manage something. That's right. You know, get organized, clean the desk. But one of the first things on the desk to get her done, so to speak, was to update our Capitol Display Project. And this is kind of our view on the world in the Capitol. It's in a very prominent location. It's located right outside the governor's private conference room. And in its day, the original display looked a lot better. It's 14 years old. It's quite dated. So then how to do it? And as the chair says, manage rather than do yourselves and find people that are more talented. So what we decided to do was to partner with College of the Sequoias and make it a learning exercise and a design exercise. I would like to, at this time, ask COS President Bill Scroggins to talk about how he embraced this challenge.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning.
Morning.
Telling the story of Tulare County in pictures and words in a 5-foot square is a challenge. But when Eric approached us about the project, I knew that our architectural design program would be more than equal to the task. In addition to just the classroom work, they take on college and community-based projects that we incentivize the students to show what they can do in an applied way. This was a particularly interesting challenge because you can tell it's an architectural design, but it also is a very creative one as well. We had two of our best students, Ryan and Dustin, took on the challenge, and when Supervisor Ishida and Supervisor Cox joined us to look at the project, it was such a creative aspect on part of both students that what you see here in this mock-up is actually a blending of the two.
You didn't let these guys mess it up at all, did you?
Well, I knew good enough to sit there and listen and follow their desires. And as a good artist does, they know their customer and they created a product that's true to their desires.
Okay, that was a good
I will
answer.
say that the college plans to follow through and construct this. This is a mock-up. We do have a construction program, so you'll see a professionally built product when you get to the point of approving this design. None of this could be done without the inspiration, talent, and expertise of the professor in our program, Rolando Gonzalez, and I'd like to call Ro up here to explain from the design aspects and introduce the students who are the authors of this project. Ro?
Thank you very much for inviting us here to present our design for the Tulare County display up at the state capitol. I'm so excited to be here, more so for the students than myself. I'm just so proud of these guys. They've done such an outstanding job on this project. And as Dr. Scroggins indicated, it seems kind of unusual to approach the architecture department to do such a project. It's kind of a combination architecture, kind of graphic design type project. But I think one of the reasons why he asked us is because of the success we've been having in our architecture program. We are already state recognized as being one of the top architecture programs for a two-year community college. And I think that amount of work that we put out in our program was one of the reasons why they decided to ask us to take on this project. I put on your desk in front of each of you a little overview of our program. It's kind of a little poster, 11 by 17, and it kind of highlights our program kind of in a nutshell. It's a great marketing tool that I use when I visit high schools and other agencies and departments that come and ask us to talk about the architecture program. And what's nice about it is it just kind of gives you everything all at once. You'll see at the very top of the poster is a description of the Associate of Science degree. Down towards the bottom is a description of the different certificates that we offer. In the middle, it talks about our travel abroad program that we have. Every summer we typically travel somewhere to study architecture. It also has a list of all of the cutting-edge computer software that we use for our program. In fact, today we're actually going to watch an animation using one of these cutting-edge computer programs that Ryan and Dustin created for this particular project. And it also has our website there in the center. And the website is incredible. It has a student gallery that you can visit online, and it will show you examples for every class, project examples for every class. And again, it's a great tool that we use to kind of highlight our program. In terms of this particular project, one of the things that excited me about it is although it wasn't an actual building, it was still a great opportunity for the students to experience what it's like to actually be an architect. They had to work with a client, Tulare County. In addition to working with a client, they had to do a lot of research. For the most part, we didn't know a whole lot about Tulare County other than what we kind of all know off the top of our head, so they really had to dig deep for that. It was an opportunity for them to work on and enhance their graphic skills, so that was a good thing as well. They also got to work individually first. I think Dr. Scroggins mentioned that initially they each did their own separate design, and then the decision was made to kind of merge them together. So they got to work individually, and then it turned into kind of a team project, which is something that happens often, even in an architect's office. So again, it comes in line with what you would do in an architect's office. Also, in a minute here, they're going to be working on their oral presentation skills, which again is something that architects do all the time. They're always presenting before school boards, board of supervisors, a mom and pop across a dining room table, but they're always presenting their work, so it's going to be a good experience for them to do that as well. And then the other thing that especially excited the students is they're each being given $600 for their work, which is going to really help them in terms of helping to finance their educations and their books at COS. They're both, for the most part, complete and finished with the classes and courses for the architecture program. I think they're both going to stay on another year to finish off some general ed classes, and then both of them will be going off to universities to continue their architectural education and eventually receive their bachelor's degrees. So again, I'm very proud of both of them. So I'd like to introduce both of them. The first individual is Dustin Yardley. Dustin, if you could stand up. This is Dustin Yardley. And after Dustin speaks, then Ryan Odom is also going to be speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and hand off to Dustin, and I'm going to man the computer for them. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Have we
How's
got them
everybody
under
doing
contract yet?
I think I'd like to start basically with the first preliminary board that we had done. Originally, like my teacher Rolando said, we had each done our own boards as a competition. It turned out to be a partner thing. And one of the things that I had done, I kind of wanted to basically overload the visitors with information about Tulare County, tell them everything I could possibly do, or tell them everything about Tulare County and everything Tulare had to offer. And a lot of the things that I had done was, you can see the sideboards. The sideboards, I had put the Allensworth and the World Ag Expo, try to give as much information about that and some additional information, visiting information. In the middle board here, I had done some Tulare County info and some Sequoia and Kings County national info. The world's largest tree, as you know, and some of the top 5 agricultural products. Initially, I basically, like I said, I wanted to overload the information to any visitors that came through and give them as much information as possible about Tulare County. I think originally, when I had done this, some of the things that I had done, hold on, give me a second. Graphically, it wasn't as pretty as I thought. And I'll be honest with you, I felt that it needed some graphics to kind of grab the visitor's eye in the display. And that's one thing that I thought Ryan Odom did very well, was he graphically caught your eye as you walk by. And that's one of the most important things. As we were walking through Sacramento, when we were looking at the displays, a lot of the displays, some of them were all right, and a lot of them that were, I felt, better, didn't necessarily say so much, even though I had originally done that. They kind of had these graphic things too to make you kind of stop and look at it and go, wow, you know, that's a really nice display. And we try to also mask that in our display here. And a lot of things that we did was we kind of mixed the two together. He had a lot of graphic art with his, and I had a lot of text-based. And we, and also some of the board members here, thought it'd be a great idea to mix the two together. And to be honest with you, I thought it really worked out well. Me and Ryan here worked really good together, and I think because not only did we work together, we were also friends. So I think I'm going to hand it off to Ryan.
Did Mr. Sheet have anything to do with the citrus background? I was just curious about that.
That was one of the things he kind of pointed out he liked about the
He did mention having icicles hanging on some of the oranges.
Yeah.
Morning. My name's Ryan Odom. Like Dustin had mentioned, I kind of went a different direction than he did, mine being more visually or picture oriented. I don't want to talk too much about my individual board because this is more about the combination of the two. Like we had, a couple people had mentioned before, we both did our individual presentations to a couple of the board members, during which they indicated that they actually liked both, but more than that, they liked elements of both. So they asked us to combine the two into one. That being said, like, agriculture's a big thing here in Tulare County, which is kind of where the idea for the background came from. The oranges actually being my idea.
It's too big for just
and
black and white, you know.
And since it's one of the top products of Tulare County, it seemed fitting.
And it's a good COS color.
We have like these floating discs on there. The purpose of those were kind of to separate the images from the background. The same goes for the county seal and the map of Tulare County. We included pictures that we felt reflect Tulare County's diversity and what the county has to offer. Each of the discs kind of have their own category to them. The top left being kind of reflecting the communities of Tulare County. The top right being the parks. The bottom left being like arts and cultural type of deals from Tulare County, and the bottom right is obviously agriculture. Also, we included a digital picture frame just to kind of, if there's limited space on there where we can put pictures. This is kind of a way of getting more pictures on there.
Right.
And you can update it or whatever. And anyway, I think I'm going to let Dustin finish this off.
From what you can see also from the disc, we have some information on the sideboards here and some information here at the bottom. And lots of information, some of it came from Ryan's project and some of it came from my project, and we kind of took what we thought was the more important aspects of the text and kind of cut it down a little bit to give them a brief overview of what we were trying to explain, cut this down a little bit. And a lot of what we did was we wanted to pinpoint some of the attractions here in Tulare County. And as you can see, there's quite a bit. There's a lot of things that for people to come around and come see. Like, one of the biggest things being the murals, the national parks, there's the lakes. We've got a couple lakes here, museums and historical buildings. And one other thing that I wanted to do in the World Ag Expo, one of the, it's the Agriculture Expo, biggest expo in the world, and for agriculture, and we wanted to give a brief overview of that. We also wanted to show off Sequoia and Kings National Parks and also the forest. We wanted to also show off the world's biggest tree. That's one of the biggest things here in Tulare County. We have a lot of unique things here in Tulare County. A lot of other people don't have, and we wanted to pinpoint those things. Another thing was Colonel Allensworth State Historical Park, and I thought all those things were pretty important, and it's kind of like a draw here into the Tulare County. We also have the county profile here at the bottom, and basically give a brief overview of what we wanted to explain about Tulare County, and then give everybody a good idea, graphically and text-based idea of what Tulare County is all about. And with that, I would like to show you. You have some perspectives here. You also want to show this perspective board, what it's going to look like.
Yes, I can.
What it's going to look like when we put it in the board, or when we put it in the display. And with that, I think I want to show you also the video we have.
Yeah, this is an animation that Dustin and Ryan generated using a computer program called ArchiCAD. It's one of the highest end architectural CAD programs today. And you can see how realistic they've been.
It's amazing.
This gives you a good idea of what the display cases look like up at the state capitol. And here's our display case here. And you've noticed at the top it says Tulare. And the other counties also have their county names as well. We decided to leave those off because we're highlighting Tulare today. So
Thought maybe you had the power to take them off. Huh? That's pretty good.
we're going to hit the play button here.
It's tremendous.
It's amazing how realistic it is. If you notice the little digital picture frame, the picture.
Yeah.
It looks so real. I was up there last week and I said, that wasn't there last week. When did they, when did they do this?
We're counting on you to get Arnold to stand next to this one.
You know, actually, I spend far too much time up there, but every time that I'm there in the hallway, there are people taking their picture. They find their county and they take their picture in front of the board. Inevitably, you can't, because there's students and there's a lot of folks visiting. So, it'll get plenty of play.
Definitely need a picture with Mr. Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see if I can make that happen.
Enjoy that.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
One last brief comment in closing. This was funded with $3,500 from our tourism budget, which was what we turned over to the college as part of the partnership. From that, President Scroggins and Professor Gonzalez decided to carve out a portion for scholarships for the first and second place. As you've heard, they've combined their work, and through a selection process with the board members and the CAO and President Scroggins, each student will end up with a $600 scholarship. The rest of the money will go towards the reimbursing the college for their research and production costs to get it installed. And I would like to say publicly, the college couldn't have been more cooperative. These students have put in a lot of long hours, probably a lot of Jolt Cola and caffeine to get this done. But I hope they got good passing grades. This was their semester project for their advanced class. And again, we thank you for the opportunity to partner with the college and do this.
Thank you, Eric. I'm sure the board would like to comment, even if briefly done. Supervisor Cox?
Oh, I'll just briefly, I mean, this is a wonderful combination of the two ideas. Supervisor Sheeta, myself, President Scroggins, Mr. Dudo was there. We enjoyed the presentations they did. And while we were deliberating, the two young men were sitting in a room, and they came back in and they said, you know what, we probably ought to put our two ideas together, which is what we had decided we wanted them to do. So I think they had seen also that they both had wonderful ideas. Supervisor Sheeta wanted more words. I wanted more pictures. I guess I'd look at the pictures in a book first, and so I wanted more pictures. And I think it's a great combination of both ideas. It's a great partnership, and I think we ought to be looking for partnership opportunities like this much more often. So I think it's great. If you look at what we have today compared to what we can have in the future, it's awesome. So good job, guys.
Supervisor Worthy?
Well, I too wanted to extend my thanks to the gentlemen for your hard work, and it really is great. One thing what struck me first is that the difficulty is the editorializing. What do you put in here? Because there's so much more to Tulare County than you can put into a box like this. We have not only the largest tree, but we have this highest point in continental United States with Mount Whitney, some beautiful scenery. And the thing I was wondering about is that one of the great things too about using the screen where you have different pictures being shown is the ability to update, because you're kind of stuck with what you have once you put it in there until you redo the whole thing. But the pictures can be changed, I would think, periodically. And what would be nice, I think, on the pictures would be if we could inside the picture, just indicate what we're looking at. Lake Kauai, Mount so-and-so. I mean, so that people could look at the picture, and then if they wanted to make a note, say, hey, I want to find out where that is and look it up. Because if you look at a photograph like that, it's like, that's a beautiful image, but where the heck is that in Tulare County? So just a thought about how that might be helpful. The other thing I noticed of being 6'2" was that, and perhaps you've already thought about that, but of course the image is best as you're looking at it perfectly at the same level. And so there might be need to just tilt it a little bit so that an average height person looking at it would kind of get the best image, and then those of us who are tall can scoot down a little bit. But anyway, it's a fabulous thing. I think you did a great job. I agree, the visual is very, very important. That's what catches people's attention. The pictures catch people's attention. Then they take the time to read the script, I think. And excellent job. Love the background. I'm not a citrus grower, but I think the background's great. And thank you very much. This is going to really help. I think it's great. The only other thing I thought about was,
no, we're not putting your picture in there.
No, it's too bad we don't have like a map of California with an arrow pointing to where Tulare County is, because I'm sure for many people in California, they have no idea where our county is. But yeah, there is. Good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Shida?
The issue of our display in the state capitol has been with us for many years. And last year we decided that why don't we go out, instead of hiring a consultant, the professional consultant, why don't we go out to our COS? Because we have a lot of bright students that we know that go to COS, and why not do something locally? Why not tap the expertise and the abilities of our local students? And I think this is a trend, hopefully a trend that we will apply to other projects that we have in the county, is to tap our local resources. This is another example of a carry forward from the Career Connection program, is that we're trying to reach out and do more internally within our county. The one thing that strikes me about this is an excellent job. Like Supervisor Cox said, he likes more pictures, I like more words, and I think this is a great compromise. I'm very proud, you should be very proud, I'm proud of the work that you've done. And there's one thing that sticks out in my mind. I'm looking at these leaves up on the top above the
we know what's on
right
your
around
line.
the county.
It's not marijuana, is it?
Well, it's not, but my grandmother gave me a picture years ago, and I hung it for probably 10 years, and she came by my house, and she looked at it and looked at my mom and says, Alan, you hung the picture upside down. Because of the way the leaves are. Maybe it's just a quirk, but it looks like the leaves above around the map are upside down. So that's something that struck me. I don't know, it may not be, but
it's a water-stress tree.
Yeah, it reminded me of the story of my grandmother. But
That might be an orange grower thing.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all your participation and your hard work, and I'm sure you're going to be very successful.
Supervisor Ennis?
Yeah, I'd also like to, of course, thank President Bill for being here. When they said that Archie deal starting out, I thought, well, maybe they was going to talk about some of Bill's relatives from Arkansas, but I guess it's a different deal. But thanks. We got to know each other pretty well up at the Big Creek tour. So.
Oh God, I thought it was going to be a Jim Maples story.
No.
Okay.
So do appreciate you being here this morning, and also Rolando, Ryan, and Dustin for all your hard work. Great program. I've been to Sacramento several times, and it was kind of it wasn't say an embarrassment, but when you go around and look at some of these other displays, and then you look at ours, and I'd say, well, boy, why can't we do something here? And so many times, I try to get State Fair every year, and we look at our booths we have up there, but so many times you walk around and you think, I'd like to go there. I'd like to see that. I'd like to go to that county. This is something that's going to make that happen. So very appreciative for all your hard work, and great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think what we've all said is that it looks like a perfect team, and it looks like a great blend of both information and eye-catching details that will make you want to stop and look at this, and then be able to absorb all the information and statistics that are there. And I like on the revamp, I appreciate that up in the left-hand corner where it says "Go Play," and at the bottom it says "Come and Explore." I think that really is a nice invitation to Tulare County. It is certainly as professional as anything I've ever seen. Very grateful to the college, President Scroggins and Instructor Rowe, as I heard him call you, if I can be so informal, Professor Gonzalez, and but to the students, it just couldn't be better, and we're just very grateful and very proud. And the scholarships that you will receive may not seem like enough, but we're happy to be able to do that in order to get this kind of quality work. So thank you very, very much. Okay, no action this morning on this item, just it was just an update, so I don't know if that means you'll be back or not. We're going to move to item number 3, which will be an introduction to the California Public Utilities Commission and California Environmental Quality Act process in relationship to the San Joaquin Cross Valley Loop Transmission Line Project. Say that 10 times fast. And we'd like to welcome this morning Jennifer Johnson and Jensen Uchida, who will be doing the presentation this morning. And we have 2 microphones. You're both welcome up. Before the students leave, maybe we should ask them to help with part of this process. I leaned over to the CAO and said, I don't know if this will be as pain-free as our other presentations this morning. So, but welcome and thank you.
I think.
Good morning. My name is Jensen Uchida, and I work for the California PUC. I'm here this morning with several members of the consulting firm of Environmental Science Associates. The CPUC hired ESA to carry out the CEQA study, the environmental studies required under the California Environmental Quality Act. As you know, Southern California Edison recently filed an application with the California PUC to build the San Joaquin Cross Valley Loop project. Because of this, the CPUC is the lead state agency under CEQA. The CPUC and ESA are currently in the beginning stages of the CEQA process, and CEQA requires the CPUC or lead agencies to consult and work with other government agencies that have an interest in the project. So far, we've had meetings with state and local officials and planning agencies of Farmersville, Exeter, and Visalia. At these meetings, we explained the CEQA process that we intend to follow throughout the San Joaquin Cross Valley Loop project process. And I'd like to introduce Jennifer Johnson to go over the CEQA process.
Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. So we're going to do a brief overview of the CPUC process, which also includes the CEQA review process. I'll give a little bit of information about the project, but we are focusing on the processes here, as well as a brief discussion of alternatives, our schedule for our CEQA review process, as well as some information on our educational workshops that we've been holding. We've actually had one last night. We have one this morning, so we'll give a little bit more information about that.
Great, and we greatly appreciate that because it's the process that we're going to talk about, not the end product today.
That's right. Thank you.
I'm just saying that for everybody out that's listening to that, and they're not here. So
appreciate the keywords. So as Jensen mentioned, Southern California Edison submitted an application to the CPUC for the San Joaquin Loop project, which is a process that they'll need to go through, which is the CPCN process. That's a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. So it's a permitting process through the CPUC. And the agency has the discretion to approve or deny the project. Within the CPCN review process, there's also the CEQA review process. They're actually parallel processes. The CPCN process actually is much broader in its breadth of information that the administrative law judge and the commission considers when making their decision. They look at economic factors, market structure, rates, etc. CEQA focuses on the environmental considerations. What are the potential significant environmental impacts that could occur from the proposed project? And that information is disclosed to the public and to the agencies such that they can make a decision whether to approve or deny a project. It also includes mitigation measures to mitigate for potentially significant environmental impacts, as well as alternatives that can also mitigate for significant environmental impacts. As I mentioned, SCE filed their application on May 31st. The first part of the process is the review of that application, which also includes what's termed a proponent's environmental assessment. SCE does environmental analyses on the project, and that's part of their application material. So the first thing that we do as the environmental consultant to the CPUC with the CPUC is review that material to determine whether or not there's a sufficient information in order to move forward with the environmental review process.
Is there a time basis for that, or it's when you get it done?
Generally try to deem the application complete within 30 days of the filing of the application.
Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting.
Oh, no, that's fine. Please
I don't
do.
ask now, I'll forget.
That's fine. So the application was deemed complete in the middle of June. Thank you. And so now we're in the beginning of the environmental review process. And as Jensen mentioned, we've started with our agency consultation. We came down a couple of weeks ago and met with local officials and agencies. And we also came down and did a site visit to look at the proposed project alignment and the alternative alignments. For this project, we have already decided that we will prepare an environmental impact report. So we will be not conducting an initial study, which is the first step in the CEQA document. In late August or early September, the CPUC will be issuing the notice of preparation stating that an environmental impact report will be prepared, and scoping meetings will be held in the area so that members of the public and any interested agencies can comment on the scope of the environmental document. We'll use that information to help inform the environmental review process and the environmental impact report. A draft EIR will be published. Notice to the public will be given that that draft EIR is available, and again, members of the public and interested agencies can comment on that document. Those comments are then addressed in a response to comment document. Together with the draft EIR is the final environmental impact report. The final environmental impact report is one component that the administrative law judge considers in making a decision about the project. So the administrative law judge will consider that, as well as the economic, social impacts, etc., and write a proposed decision. That decision will be released to the public to review, and at that time, interveners can comment on the proposed decision. And sometimes you'll see in this process that other commissioners have different opinions about the project, and they'll actually be opposing decisions as well. So that information is all called together, and there's a proposed final decision on which the commission then votes whether to approve or deny the project. We are focused on process, but I did want to just include a map of the proposed project route, which is termed Alternative 1 on this map, and there are 3 other alternatives that SCE has proposed in their application materials. As part of the environmental review process, ESA with the CPUC and other members of our staff will also develop other alternatives that could reduce significant environmental impacts and substantially meet the objectives of the project. I wanted to give you guys a schedule of where we're at. Today is August 12th. So we're doing our public workshops in the area that have been focusing on the process, a greater level of detail than we provided here today. So if you were not able to attend last night, feel free to join us tonight in Wood Lake. As I mentioned, the notice of preparation will be sent in August, early September. We'll have scoping meetings as well, and we anticipate that the draft EIR will be available for public review in January of 2009. and that there will be we'll have comment meetings, usually halfway through the comment period, which is 45 days. So it gives people enough time to actually review the document and get their comments ready. In April of 2009, we anticipate that we would be able to respond to those comments and have that final response to comment document available. And in May 2009, the CPUC and the Commission would determine whether or not to approve or disapprove the project. And noted in small text is these dates are subject to change.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Sure. So last night we were at the Freedom Elementary School. We had about 150 people show up for our educational workshop. So that went really well, and we were well received. So thank you for everyone who helped get the information out. We sent notices, but I know a number of the local communities followed up with constituent groups as well, so that was really great. And tonight we're going to be available at the Woodlake Veterans Memorial Building as well, so if anyone has the time or inclination to come, we invite you to join us for our second workshop. And then just the last slide is our project information. If you have any comments or information, you can get a hold of us through mail, phone, fax, email, or check out our website, which has all the latest information about the project, the process, and where we're at. So,
great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Jensen, I noticed we have all kinds of information there for you. So if we want to find you, we can.
Sure.
Board members have any questions? You're leaning in, Supervisor.
Yeah,
that means you have a question.
I really have a question at this point in time. But the meeting, thank you last night. It was very well presented, and they'll be having the same meeting tonight in Woodlake. So we encourage people who missed last night's meeting to attend in Woodlake tonight.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, I appreciate it so much, and we all the opportunity for input even from the start, I think is really important. So thank you for being with us here today, explaining the process, and also sitting through our other presentations this
That was
morning.
fun.
Maybe you learned a little bit about the county while you were here, but we do appreciate it. And I'm sure you will have a robust group this evening to continue your discussion.
Madam Chair, before we
Yes.
move to the next item, because this process is somewhat complicated, I'd like to have George McEwen come up, and it's a citizens group who is monitoring the timelines, and they have the information background for anybody that has questions, so you can get answers locally and make a brief statement.
Okay, brief is the key word. That's my word of the day.
Thank you.
Supervisor Cox is over
I
here
will try to
thanking
be
me.
as brief as I can. I'm George McEwen. I
Thank you for
reside
joining
at
us, George.
22114 Boston Avenue in Exeter, resident of that area since I was born and raised 61 years ago. We have formed a citizens group, it's called PACE. It says Protect Agriculture, Communities, and Environment. We are not opposed to the San Joaquin Cross Valley Loop by any means. We are opposed to the route that has been selected by Southern California Edison, which is Route 1. They have two other routes. Route 1 is going through the business district, the industrial park of Farmersville that is just being established now. It dissects that in about, not half, but about a third. It takes a good part of their business district out. It proceeds going east along Highway 198, paralleling Highway 198 on the south side. And this is our scenic corridor to the Sequoia National Parks. I think many of you realized about a month ago we put up some orange balloons that went up to 160 feet. If you got on that overpass and could visualize these balloons all the way through there, 160 feet, it's just devastating to our area. It is going through some prime citrus ground, Exeter, Lynn Cove, and Lemon Cove. I'm not prejudiced, but I tell you what, we grow some of the finest navel oranges in the San Joaquin Valley there. And I think that picture might show right there was probably taken in our area.
Okay, so is it upside down or not?
Well, I have a concern too, because I wasn't sure about those leaves looking upside down. Alan, I'm not sure that's you're not right. But anyway, it does end up in Lemon Cove area at an archaeological site. Back in the 1850s, we had 2,000 Indians living in that area through the Quay River and the creeks that goes along Lipsey Creek. One such village is called Buckeye, and it ends up in that area. The other route is alternate 3. It is the existing power line route right now. Incidentally, our land committee found that it affected 250 APN numbers, 250 parcels of property going to Route 1. Route 3, the alternate Route 3 going to Stokes Mountain affects 8 property owners, and that's on cattle ground or grazing ground. So there's not saying that's not valuable ground, but it's not near as valuable as ours. So anyway, our group is, like Alan said, we are focused on this very well. We are concerned about it, and we're trying to inform the public of what's taking place. So with that, I made it very brief, and if there's any questions, I will make a brief answer if I could.
That was brief and very succinct, and I think my only comment is that that's why I appreciate the folks that came here, and we are very conscious of the public process, and it sounds as if last night started it off, and it will continue to allow everyone that has something to offer to the process to.
They did an excellent job last night. In fact, they got a big round of applause, so it was well received.
Great, thank you. Okay. Anything further from board members? Okay. Unless there's someone else that wishes to address the board, we will move to item number 4, our 4th presentation of the morning. And this morning we have with us Lauren Brandt, PFM, and Jamie Whitaker. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to see everyone. And let me pull this up here.
Lauren, you can push that button up. That whole thing will come up.
Sorry.
Can you help her raise the?
Looks like our panic button.
One of those buttons.
Here we go.
Good, I thought I was going to have to go see my chiropractor this afternoon. Thank you. Again, Jamie Whitaker, as you'd mentioned, is with me as well. And also Peter Schellenberger, a colleague of mine from Public Financial Management, actually one of the county's financial advisors. Thought we could give an update today on the Millennium Fund program, but to start with, because it has been some time, give a brief background of the program and also summarize the results to date. In 1999, the county made a decision based on the result of the tobacco settlement from some of the major tobacco manufacturers in the country to securitize those tobacco receipts and to create an endowment. So again, that's almost 10 years ago. And when that happened, the county issued $45 million of taxable short-term bonds. And the purpose of those was to, when the tobacco receipts came in on an annual basis, we would invest those proceeds as well as to pay debt service on the bonds, but really to grow the corpus of the fund so that the county would have proceeds on an annual basis for capital purposes as well as ongoing maintenance. A lot has happened in the last couple of years, and I thought it'd be important this go around to talk about the 2 components that go into the long-term investment strategy of this program. The first being we've typically in the past focused on the investment performance. And I thought because all that has gone on both the borrowing side, the borrowing costs that have impacted the county, as well as the investment side, Peter Schellenberger is here with me to go through the borrowing cost side and the impacts there. In 2006, in December, the county, advised by Peter and Public Financial Management, refunded the Millennium Fund bonds, created a new, somewhat new structure, which Peter will talk about, but essentially lowered the borrowing costs to the county, as well as also eliminated much of the credit risk associated with these bonds, which has really tremendously helped the county over these last 2 years. And as I said, Peter will explain that in more detail. So I'm going to let Peter come up and talk about that, and then Jamie's also going to come up as well and talk about the investment side. But the bottom line is the program is doing as its intended purpose 10 years ago, and creating and generating funds for the county's purposes and intended purposes. So we'll go through some of the numbers and the details, but first I'd like Peter to come up and talk about the impact on the borrowing side and the borrowing costs.
Wonderful. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Peter Schellenberger.
It's been a while. It's good to see you all, and thanks for having me back. As Lauren pointed out, it has been a difficult financial market this year across the entire financial market. The stock market and the municipal bond market has not been unimpacted. And far too much of my time, at least, has been coming down to municipalities such as yourselves and explaining what went wrong with the financial markets and how it's negatively impacted the particular issuer. And so in this case, I have the pleasure to come down and tell you what went wrong with the financial markets and how it has not negatively impacted the county of Tulare at all. So I thank you for that opportunity. As a recap, I'll begin what we did in 2006. With your approval, we did restructure the original 1999 bonds. We left the structure largely intact. At the time, there was about $42.3 million of principal outstanding. We did not change the principal amortization. The bonds are paid by tobacco revenues as they come in, but to enhance the credit, they are also secured by certain properties of the county, and so that's a lease revenue bond structure. We left that as in place. It is still today a lease revenue bond structure. Importantly, and as this is the theme that will carry through the next few pages, these are variable rate bonds, meaning the interest rate resets, in this case, every month. And as turmoil continues in the financial markets, if you reset every month, you're exposed to any sort of financial turmoil on a monthly basis. We'll see how that plays out. And it also importantly, rather than what originally was a publicly traded security, Morgan Stanley was your remarketing agent. They were going out each week, going out to the markets, finding investors, seeing what investor demand was, and then resetting your interest rate accordingly on a weekly basis. Rather than let Morgan Stanley continue as remarketing agent, we privately placed these bonds, you'll recall, with DEPFA Bank. And we took the decision away from the investors. We pegged the interest rate to an index, a 25 basis point spread to the index, and that's played in your favor, as we'll see. Why did we do it? There were financial reasons and there were policy reasons for restructuring the bonds in 2006. Financially, it was straightforward. We wanted to reduce your borrowing costs. We did. We reduced the interest rate on average by about 40 basis points, or 0.4%, and that's translated to about $122,000 in debt service savings to date since 2006, December. Also, we eliminated the need for any credit enhancement by privately placing these with DEPFA Bank. We don't need bond insurance, and this will be an important theme today, and we don't need any letter of credit or any other credit enhancement. We also reduced the amount of pledged properties that supported these bonds. We took $5.8 million in properties, put it back on your balance sheet for other purposes. And also for policy purposes, at your discretion, increase the option and flexibility to draw from this fund on an annual basis, increased it from $2.5 million to $3.5 million. I believe you've exercised that option. Okay, benefits were realized in 2006. Everything's looked great. Crystal balls, red, smooth skies ahead. Along came 2008. And 2008 has been, choose your word, tumultuous, brutal, depending on your vantage point. And it all started with the subprime housing market. Interesting securities were created that were supported by income coming off of mortgages along with these subprime mortgages. Financial markets made very interesting instruments. Wall Street purchased some of these instruments. The bond insurers insured some of these instruments. The CDOs, they're called collateralized debt obligations. I'm sure you guys are intimately familiar with that name by this point, or they were referred to as residential mortgage-backed securities. The impact, obviously, in the housing market has been a huge impact in the housing market, for the worse. It's impacted stock market as well. It's impacted the dollar, and with that, it's impacted fuel prices, although we're seeing some fuel prices come down. It's also impacted the municipal bond market. As I say, bond insurers insured quite a bit of this stuff, and every bond insurer on, let's say, October 2007 had a AAA rating next to its name, and insurers such as yourself went out and purchased that AAA rating. Following their exposure to insuring these credits, they quickly were reduced from AAA to AA to single A, some of these folks in the BBB category. So the value of these policies plummeted. Major Wall Street banks that were holding on to some of these CDO or RMBS securities had significant financial losses, currently about $450 billion in losses between insurers and Wall Street banks. Here's kind of a timeline. It has just unfolded, and we've looked for some relief as the year's gone on, but it's just not going our way in the municipal bond market. It began in January. AMBAC, the insurer, was downgraded first to a AA. XL Capital was downgraded to a AA, and currently they're in the B category. FIGIC, a well-known insurer, also downgraded. A large part of the variable rate market, bond market, called auction rate securities, which comprised about $150 billion of variable rate municipal bonds, nearly collapsed, I should say, is in the process of being completely restructured, and we will not see auction rate securities in about 12 months' time. Bear Stearns was the first bank to declare insolvency. They made it through the Great Depression but couldn't get through 2008. They were purchased by J.P. Morgan in June 2008. You'll see it just continues. MBIA is downgraded. UBS, the second largest player in the municipal bond market, completely left the market. They are solvent, they're financially strong, but they decided we're not going to play in the municipal bond market anymore, largely because of profit motivations, not because it's a risky market, but folks overseas, headquarters, decided we're no longer interested in U.S. munis. So we lost Bear Stearns. UBS is pulled out, so a lot of changes in the municipal market. You're probably seeing the housing market and you're seeing the stock market, but as decision makers, I'm sure you're well aware that it's impacted your municipal market as well. There were two insurers that were unscathed, FSA and Assured Guarantee. They were unscathed up until 3 weeks ago. The rating agencies took another look at their balance sheet, feel they have too much exposure, and so there's risk of them being downgraded, in which case there will not be a single insurer that has a AAA rating. And so that creates some issues going forward. Again, the real hit has been on the bonds that reset every month. This has been unfolding for 10 months, and so there's been 10 months of uncertainty, bad news, and higher interest rates for variable rate bonds. Investors have lost any confidence in bond insurers. Capital losses have made banks very, very shaky about taking on new positions with bonds, and so willingness to underwrite has slowly deteriorated. Again, auction rate security market has nearly collapsed. With all of this, interest rates have increased. Just to give you some anecdotal information, we've seen folks that issuers, very strong AA rated issuers that had auction rate securities that would reset every week, went from where they should have been at 2.5% to 7% to 12% to, for instance, New York MTA, very strong credit, 20%. So they made very quick work to get out of those positions, restructure those auction rate securities. Also, this is kind of an arcane feature, but important to you. As bond insurers have lost their AAA rating, folks look elsewhere for credit enhancement, for credit support. And those folks look to letter of credit banks. Okay, they're called letter of credit facilities. They support variable rate instruments. They provide both liquidity and insurance. You originally had a letter of credit, you'll recall. We took you out of that position. Some of this is thoughtful restructuring on our part. In fact, I would say 100% is thoughtful restructuring on your part, our part. Part of it is dumb luck, and we'll take both. In combination, they work quite well. The bit of good news at the market on the short end, at least on the debt side, is the Federal Reserve has tried to stimulate the economy by reducing the short-term interest rate. It's fallen from 5.25% about a year ago to 2%, and so you're paying a lower rate on your bonds. Last slide. What does all this mean? Thankfully, I have good news to tell you today, and again, I thank you for that. But what does this mean to the county? Well, when we privately place these bonds with DEPFA Bank, again, we took the decision out of the investors' hands, and we simply index this to a taxable index called the London Interbank Offering Rate, or LIBOR. We don't care what investor demand is, if they're nervous or not. You simply get pegged 25 basis points over LIBOR. What does that mean? You're paying about 2.7%. So you think New York MTA, great credit, they were paying 7, 12, 20%. You don't have that exposure. And indeed, with the Fed lowering rates in 2006, back in a great financial market, you were paying 5.6%. That was LIBOR at the time. And as the markets have fallen apart, oddly enough, to stimulate the economy, and as the Fed has taken policy positions, your interest rate has come down with those to 2.7%. So oddly enough, on the debt side, you've benefited through this market. You have no exposure to bond insurers, which is important. There are very few left. You have no exposure to letter of credit banks. We removed that exposure. So that's the good news. That's the good news on the debt, and I'm happy to answer any questions. That's only half the equation, though. I know Jamie's going to tell you how your investment of these proceeds is playing out. So.
Questions up to now? Supervisor Worthley?
Well, I just want to say, Peter, thanks. I'm sure it was in part dumb luck, but also we looked at this a while back and said, why do we need this letter of credit given the fact that we have so much equity, on our side of the ledgers, and so we did make some decisions, I think, that for other reasons have turned out to be very, very beneficial to us. But thanks for bringing us up to date and makes us feel a lot better about where we could be otherwise. It's
Absolutely.
Nice position to be in.
My pleasure. Just to recap, let me restate. I would not call it dumb luck, and having spoken to a number of issuers this year, I think issuers at this point make intelligent decisions and put themselves in a position to be lucky, and that's what you did in 2006. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And as Peter mentioned, this borrowing side certainly has helped to impact the positive performance on the investment side as well, which Jamie's going to talk to you about the numbers. But just to also iterate, not only in the bond market has it been very challenging, it certainly has been challenging on the investment side as well. For 2006 and much of 2007, we had an inverted yield curve, which meant that your borrowing rate, or investors could buy a short-term overnight rate for a higher yield than a long-term 2, 5, 10, or even 30-year investment. And so what that meant to the county was, because your borrowing rate are tied to that 1-month index, we were not able to generate a significant positive spread at that time to offset, we were pretty much trying to break even. And so that we have navigated that challenging market as well. We've had a very flexible strategy to be able to, as the market has changed, to be able to rework the investments so that we do still maintain a positive spread in the Millennium Fund. And in 2007 and now into 2008, also as Peter just mentioned, as the subprime market started to hit the investment markets and housing became very weak and started to snowball into the rest of the economy, the Fed aggressively cut the overnight rate from 5.25% to 2%, which certainly has helped to offset and create now a positive sloping yield curve where we can buy investments with a significant spread over that borrowing rate. So Jamie, you want to talk about the numbers?
Sure. And as Peter indicated and Lauren indicated, despite a very challenging environment in the credit market on both the municipal side and the investment side, the program has been performing the way that it was designed to perform in 1999. As you can see on page 8, the balance of the program on April 1st was $47,674,000. In addition to that, the county has taken over $24 million in appropriations since 1999 for capital projects from the program, and we paid down the principal of the bonds that were issued for the program down to $41 million as of August 1st. The results are shown on page 9. While the spread return is 13 basis points, the spread being the difference between the earnings on the investments compared to what is being paid out on the bonds, the 13 basis points it is a positive result based on the good performance, the management performed by PFM Asset Management in the first 5 years of the program that created a surplus that enabled us to weather through some challenging times. On page 10, another measure of the success of the program is the unwind exposure. And what the unwind exposure is, it's the difference between the value of the investments of the program and what it would cost to collapse the program, or the principal of the outstanding bonds. And as of April 1st, the unwind exposure is $6 million positive. In other words, there's a $6 million surplus in the program. Lauren is going to take it from here and discuss the other characteristics.
Essentially, in brief, the last few pages really deal with the strategy and also some visuals of what we've been talking about in terms of the investment market. On page 11, looking at, this is the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee. This is the Federal Reserve cuts that took place. This is over the last 8 years. But you can see back in 2007 when rates were 5.25%, and then how quickly the Federal Reserve reacted to the weakened economy in order to, again, stimulate growth, started to lower that overnight rate, and it's now at 2%, which again has been very favorable for the borrowing costs. At the same time, this is a look at a yield curve, 3 yield curves actually, of U.S. Treasuries. At the bottom are the maturities, 3 months, 6 months maturities all the way out to 10 years. And the top two that look like flat line, unfortunately, EKG lines, that shows that back in 2006 and 2007, again, overnight rates were either higher or yielded the same amount as longer-term investments. We are now back to the blue line, which represents April 1st, 2008, where investors are being paid to invest out a little bit longer and also getting compensated for that. And the maturity of the distribution of the county's Millennium Fund investments is represented on page 13. So you can see we've begun to take advantage of some of those higher, longer-term rates to offset the borrowing costs and continue to generate and build again that cushion on the investment performance. The next 2 pages are looking at the types of securities in the Millennium Fund investments, all high-quality securities, corporate notes, commercial paper, which are short-term corporate obligations, as well as federal agency securities, all very high quality and consistent with the government code and the county's bond documents. And just as important to diversify by sector, of course, it's also important to diversify by issuer. So certainly, you've heard that there have been a lot of companies in the headlines recently, but we have a very stringent credit process in place, and all these companies are well-diversified global institutions and banks that continue to perform very well and are well-capitalized. And as you can see, we, of course, think that diversification amongst these entities is important as well. So in summary, just to reiterate what Jamie said, the program is continuing to perform as it was designed to perform. And we're going to continue to maximize that spread between the borrowing costs and the investment costs, looking out for specific investments that will help with that in the long term, not just the short term. So just for example, also in helping grow the fund, the cash earnings that have been generated over the last year exceeded the debt service payments by $500,000, which goes back into creating and generating those funds for the capital purposes and the intended purposes of the county. Any questions for any of us?
Questions, board members?
Well, I guess sort of a bottom line position, and we're still in a position where we can go ahead and continue to take $3.5 million without jeopardizing the program.
That is correct, and actually the county just withdrew on July 23rd the $3.5 million. So, and again, as you could see, we're still significantly above the position of the outstanding principal.
I know initially our goal had been to make 50 basis points difference, but then we were paying all those additional costs, and
right.
the comment was made about reducing 40 basis points, I think, on just a letter of credit. So in a sense, the 13% return, 13 basis points doesn't seem like much, but actually that would exceed the 50 basis points when we were paying 40 basis points for the letter of credit. So it doesn't seem like much, but it actually, that change we made was very fortuitous in the past.
It really was, yes. And
costs.
that's only taken place, that's only had time to kind of benefit you, and it has, just within a year. So that will compound, of course,
Right.
as well as we go forward.
Well, thank you very much. I had mentioned earlier that my word of the day was brief, and Supervisor Cox informed me that his word of the day was surplus.
Well, hopefully we were able to achieve both, but thank you very much for the opportunity to meet with you.
Thank you, all three of you. Okay. Now we'll go to our 9:30 timed items. And item number 5 is a public hearing. Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. I apologize. Let's do consent real quick.
Motion to approve consent calendar 9 through 34.
Second.
Your votes? Passes unanimously of those that were here. Okay, now we can move on. Thank you, Mr. Rousseau, for reminding me that there were people that were just waiting. Morning.
Good morning. Laurie Mercer, Resource Management Agency, Community Development and Redevelopment. I hope this morning finds you all well. I'd like to read the required address into the record. The Board of Supervisors is holding this public hearing to review and receive comments and to solicit citizen input regarding submittal of an application for the 2008 Community Development Block Grant Program Planning and Technical Assistance Allocation. Translations are available and were advertised. However, no one requested the assistance. A sign-in sheet is available. While signing is voluntary, we would appreciate you doing so. The objective of the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, program is to develop viable communities by providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for persons of low and moderate income. The county is eligible to apply for a maximum of $140,000 for both the general and the economic development planning and technical assistance allocation. Eligible PTA assistance activities under the general allocation include, but are not limited to, affordable housing needs and development studies, community needs assessments, housing condition surveys, infrastructure needs analysis, environmental reviews and studies, or final plans and specifications in support of general allocation projects. Eligible planning TA assistance activities under the economic development allocation include, but are not limited to, marketing studies, industrial analysis, business attraction and retention studies, industrial park development studies, and revitalization strategies. Projects funded with CDBG allocations must carry out at least one of the following three national objectives: benefit to targeted income group persons, including low-income, minority, handicapped, and/or elderly, aid in the prevention or elimination of slums and blight, and meeting urgent community development needs. Any activities in these communities will meet the national objective, principally benefiting targeted income group. It is recommended that the county apply for the maximum grant amount of $70,000 under the CDBG Planning TA general allocation to perform a feasibility study for a flood prevention strategy and to prepare a countywide housing condition survey. The housing condition survey is a component of the required housing element update, which is an element included in the county's general plan. It is recommended also that the county apply for the maximum grant amount of $70,000 under the economic development allocation under the planning TA to perform a blight analysis and prepare documents in support of the formation of redevelopment project areas in the communities of Terabella, Ducor, and Strathmore. This includes analysis of the housing stock, existing land uses, incompatible land uses, economic development barriers, lack of infrastructure and basic services, and the indicative factors and causes of blight as defined by the California Health and Safety Code. The establishment of a redevelopment project area in these communities will allow the county to use the redevelopment agency's tax increment financing to undertake projects which will benefit these communities and would otherwise not be funded. As indicated previously, the purpose of the public hearing is to provide the opportunity to ask questions and encourage citizens to express their points of view. We have invited members of the public to submit written comments to the County of Tulare Resource Management Agency Community Development and Redevelopment Division at 5961 South Mooney Boulevard. Additional information is available at that address if they desire. Citizens will be advised of program progress on an annual basis at a public hearing scheduled for that purpose. No one will be displaced as a result of these activities. All Tulare County CDBG programs are implemented in ways that are consistent with the county's general plan and commitment to fair housing and equal opportunity. Applicants will not and are not discriminated against on the basis of race, color, ancestry, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, or physical handicap. That completes the address to the board, and I'd like to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Any questions from board members for staff? No? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, this is a public hearing. So we will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this issue? Now would be the time. Okay, seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for discussion, action.
Move approval, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes, please. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Mercer. Okay. Item number 6, public hearing, request from Resource Management Agency to consider proposed building permit fee adjustments. I don't want to read all those code numbers. I'll let Mr. Hunt do that.
Good morning.
6 is
Morning,
perfectly
Mr.
acceptable.
Chairman Conway and fellow board members. I'm Roger Hunt, Assistant RMA Director in charge of Administrative Services. I'm here regarding the item for a public hearing to consider the proposed building permit fee adjustments. Asking that once the board has conducted the public hearing, that adopt the recommended fees as listed in Attachment A, and that they would become effective October 11th, then be 60 days after you've adopted them. I would like to also note that Mr. Keenan with the Home Builders Association is in the audience, and that we have met with him previously and discussed the proposed item and provided him with the information. Also, I have with me a representative from Zucker Systems, Mike McNamara, who prepared the study that's Attachment B. Just a little bit of history with regards to the building permit fees. Back in 2005, Zucker Systems performed a study for RMA and recommended replacing the valuation system that was being used with a fee system based on time cost to perform the inspection and plan checking task. And your board adopted fees that were a little bit less than what were recommended. I should say the decreases were a bit less than what was recommended by Zucker. We had asked Zucker to do a follow-up study 3 years later. And just to give you a little bit of information on the Attachment B, Table 1 on page 5 refers to the revenue and expenditure comparisons. And in 0506, when the fees were changed in 2005, the revenue was $2.2 million, and the total costs were just under $2.1 million. So we had a surplus of a little over $128,000 that year. But in the following year, in 0607, the revenue was $2 million, and the total costs were just under $2.1 million again. So we had a deficit of about $46,000. In the 0708, I have some updated numbers now. The revenue, even though we had budgeted just under $2.1 million in revenue, it came in just under $1.7 million. And we had budgeted just under $2.1 million in cost, and it came in at just under $2 million. So we ended up with a $300,000 deficit this year. And we were predicting, without a rate increase, that there would be a deficit of over $400,000. So we felt that given what's happening in the industry, even though the number of building permits had been fairly consistent, I think they topped out about 4,900 permits in 0506, and we were predicting about 4,700 permits this year, but it appears that that's dropped off. I know that we were over 4,000 building permits at the time we had done the study. I don't have the actual number for this year, but what's recommended in the report is that the county make no changes to the existing fees in Table 14, That's categories 1 through 22. And that includes residential dwellings, residential remodel, alterations, multifamily dwellings, commercial and industrial buildings. But to approve the other building inspection division fees, categories 23 through 75, which I've taken those fees on attachment A and listed them 1 through actually 50. The recommended fees would generate a little more than 20% additional revenue for this division in order to break even. If we have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Questions, comments from board members? Okay. I'm busy reading, not paying attention. In that case, this is a public hearing. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this matter, now is the time. Mr. Keenan?
Good morning,
Morning, Mr.
Madam
Keenan.
Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors. Bob Keenan, the Home Builders Association, Tulare Kings County, President and CEO, 315 West Oak Avenue in Visalia. I met with the staff and Mr. Hash and reviewed the Zucker report. We like service and we don't mind paying to get it. We also are when we have a downturn in business, as you've probably seen happening, we lay off people. I think the county has a contingent of personnel necessary to run it, and therefore we believe that these fees are justified to increase. It does affect our industry in this downtime, but I think things are beginning to turn around. I think you're more affected by the lack of a state budget and not knowing where your money is going to come from or where you have to shift things, and we don't want to be part of a burden of that. So we will support these increases to ensure the department provides the service we need in a timely manner. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the board? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for discussion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Hey, that was a short discussion. Cast your votes, please. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Public hearing, item number 7.
Yes,
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. This is a public hearing to consider proposed planning and development fee adjustments as listed in attachment A on the summary of proposed fees. And we'd ask you to, after conducting the public hearing, to adopt the recommended fees as listed in attachment A. Every year, we review the cost associated with providing services and make recommendations for those fee changes. This year, we have contacted the other departments because the planning and development fee schedule is actually comprised of fees that not only from RMA, but also from the assessor, from county fire, and environmental health. I've contacted those departments. They're not proposing any fee increases, any fee changes this year. The fees that are actually asked to be included here, there is a new fee, one for an airport land use commission fee, and it really involves whenever there is a need to review the city plans in conjunction with the airport plans so that they can make sure that there's not inconsistencies and would allow us to recover our cost. And that would be at $100 an hour, which that $100 per hour rate has been in effect now for a couple of years. The other fees that we have are some cleanup fees in terms of like road naming changes where there was a different fee for private roads as opposed to public roads, and so we're asking, since it's really the same amount of time to do that work, have the same fee. Also asking for the annual inspection fee for surface mining and reclamation permits, which is currently $100 an hour. We request that that fee be changed back to a $400 flat fee. What we found is that these annual inspections are taking about 4 hours each inspection, and they're just only a certain number of mines. So rather than keeping track and having to bill out per hour, because right now we're requiring a $350 deposit, just charge the $400 fee, and it'd be simpler. On the Williamson Act, we're partial non-renewal notices, and I do want to note that in the attachment A that it should have said notice of partial non-renewal, not just notice of non-renewal, because there's also full non-renewals. We're asking that the partial non-renewal fee be changed to $300 because that's the amount of time, about 3 hours, to do the processing of those. The partial to fulfill condition of approval was only $100, and we're actually getting a lot more of those than we are of the applicant initiated, and so we were really losing money on that. The other things that are in here are really just cleanups, and so if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I do.
Supervisor Yoshida?
Back on private road fees. What is the fee going to change to? What was it, and what is it going to be?
The public road fee currently for private roads, the name changing, is $920, and we're asking to change it to $700. The public road fee is $666, and we're wanting to change that to $700 as well. So we looked at, and really the issue is that we don't get a lot of road name changes, and so there's not a whole lot of activity there, but we wanted to capture the cost, recognizing it's the same for both public and private.
The information I've seen in the past is that the county was supposed to name a lot of these private roads years ago, and that never took place. So are we charging a fee for something we haven't accomplished in our own work program that was established years ago?
I would have to defer to staff. I know that there are some of our staff in the audience. We didn't answer the question, but I'm unable to.
I didn't know you could pay a fee and name a road. Supervisor Worth?
Good morning, board members. Henry Hash, Resource Management Agency. Supervisor Rashida, I do know just a little bit about that. You are correct that in the years past, the decision was for county to name the roads. However, the still county was to charge the fee. It was not to name roads at no cost. So,
Okay. Well, the issue I have with that, because we haven't done what we're supposed to do, is the price has escalated substantially, and this is not only a fee issue, it's a public safety issue. So a lot of these private roads need to be named and given proper addresses so we can respond to these addresses in the case of emergency. And this is very prevalent in the foothill areas. And that would be from Kern County line all the way to the Fresno County line. And that's an issue we've been struggling with on naming those roads and private roads for at least 3 years. And part of the issue is the amount of fees that we're going to charge for the owners to have their names, roads named.
Well, a question is, this is a name change we're talking about?
Yes.
So if it's never been named, is that a different issue?
I don't know.
I'm not really sure, but because I know
Okay,
we
then
have
the answer's no.
we have had a couple of issues, and really the fee was a question. This is how much time is required by our staff to go through the process. It's obviously, it's always at the board discretion whether you would like to to reduce the fee, to waive the fee, but that's how much it has been. And we don't get that many. I don't recall really since I've been here more than just less than a handful of these road name changes.
We're actually asking to reduce the fee from $920 to $700 for private roads.
But it's a name change.
Yes.
Not the
I
naming of.
think Mr. Sheeta's really talking about naming a road, the roads that are not named at all. And just by the definition, when you say name change, that's not the same as no name.
Correct.
What about, Henry, what about road abandonment? Is there a charge for abandoning a road?
There is a charge too, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I've got several people in my
Yes.
area wanting to abandon roads. Okay.
Well, I bring the issue up, and I don't want to stall it today, what we're trying to do, but I'd like to revisit this
Certainly.
naming. Because it's going to become, it's a problem getting fire trucks to places that don't really have addresses.
We'd be glad to look into your concerns.
Okay. We're back to the business at hand. Any other questions? Okay. Well, it is a public hearing. So I will open that public hearing now. Anyone wishing to address the board on this? Now's the time. Seeing and hearing none. Close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for
Motion to approve.
Second.
a motion and a second. Cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
They're letting me talk, thank you. Or I can spit it out. There it was. Okay. Item number 8 is also listed as a public hearing. Mr. Hayter, are you in charge of this? Mr. Hess? Somebody? Hess is,
And we're
okay.
convening as the redevelopment agency.
Good morning, Chairman.
Yes.
For the
Well,
board,
we're
my name is
remaining-
John Hess. I'm with Resource Management Agency, Community Development and Redevelopment Division. Higher there.
Higher yet, my goodness.
Thank you. County Council has identified an addition to the California Community Redevelopment Law, which applies to the redevelopment plan amendment before you today, and it was enacted in January of '07. This new code section states that notice must be given to the California Departments of Finance and Housing and Community Development at least 45 days before a joint public hearing to consider a redevelopment plan amendment. This requirement is not included in the current guidelines or law resource books used by staff to establish and amend redevelopment project areas. As a result of this new requirement, staff requests today that today's public hearing be continued 120 days till December of 2008 of this year. And this will allow staff enough time to request the auditor's office to prepare a supplemental report, for staff and council to prepare the necessary documents to be submitted to the state departments, and to make the required notifications, and then return back to your board for a rescheduled public hearing. I'd like to also add that because the redevelopment plan amendment will be continued past the State Board of Equalization's cutoff for using a prior year's tax roll, we will be entering into a new year's tax roll, and as a result, the tax increment financing determinations will change, and that is the purpose of the auditor's supplemental report, which will be included with the redevelopment plan amendment in December. If there's any questions.
If I understand you correctly, or council or whomever, 120-day extension, are we opening the public hearing today, or are we just?
I think, Madam Chairman, we only need to open the public hearing if there's someone here today who made a special trip just to comment on this issue.
Well, I suppose I can ask that question before I open the public hearing then.
I don't,
Is anyone here to address us on this issue this morning? It doesn't appear so.
we will we won't just continue the hearing from here, we will renotice the hearing. Or
Okay. So we just have
That's what we
a,
noticed the hearing.
I do have a question, Madam Chair.
yes.
Statement made is not in the books you currently use. Is there a new updated version of this book that we ought to have?
I believe there is from the California Redevelopment Association. They issue these updates at the Legal Issue Symposium, which I believe is happening this month, later this month.
So it's not available until later this month?
I believe so.
If it's not available till later this month, it's still a requirement, even though it's not been officially issued?
It is. County Council, Nina, I believe, actually found the requirement, and I don't know if she found it online or if she found it in an update that County Council received.
Found it in the code book.
Okay.
So it is an existing code, but
Yes.
that RMA doesn't have. Can we get them a copy?
Well, we'll make sure they know where it is.
Thank you.
I'm trying to move, continue this matter for 120 days to, we don't need a date certain because you're going to
we won't
renotice it.
renotice.
So the matter be just continued, or tabled, I guess there may actually be a motion to table it.
Second.
Okay, cast your votes, please. Motion passes unanimously to table. Okay. Items not timed. Item 35 is information only. It's about a bid opening. Don't do anything other than read it.
Bustle's coming up.
Oh,
While he's walking up, Madam Chair, if I may, I tell you the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, the 7 lowest bids are all below the engineer's estimate.
it's an exciting day for you all around, isn't
It's
it,
an
Supervisor?
exciting day, $220,000.
Good morning, Board. Britt
worth.
Fussell, Assistant Director of the Resource Management Agency. This item's on the agenda from the clerk to the board for informational purposes only. We will be back on, I believe, August 26th with an agenda item to award the contract. If you have any questions in the meantime, I'd be happy to attempt to answer them.
Okay, no questions? Thank you, Mr. Fussell.
And yes, we've been receiving some excellent bids. Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is public comment, and I do have some request forms from some folks wishing to address the board. And so the first name I have on the top here is Johnny Quinones. Johnny still here? Okay, Johnny's not here. Then, in any order, doesn't make any difference. It's either Greg or Anthony, or both of you can come forward. Just tell us who we have. Oh, you have a group. All right.
Sort of. Anthony Cardona, Tulare County IT. Today we're here to actually present a petition to remove a tentative agreement that was made at an overall master contract negotiation with SEIU 521. This tentative agreement needs to be removed. It involves a reorganization and restructuring of county IT services, the new county IT services. There's actually some other issues involved with it. We do have a petition and a statement to go with this. So give you more detail. I don't want to spend too much time on it. If anybody else wants to say anything from my group, mostly IT people, we need to get this moving. I don't think it belongs in overall contract negotiations since it involves a department reorganization. Basically, that's it. And you want to say anything, Greg?
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the board. Greg Gomez. I live at 280 Kristen Street, Farmersville. I'm really confused. I'm a supervisor. I was a supervisor at HHSA MIS in charge of the database team for 4 employees. I lost 2 to attrition. One of them I now have to split with another supervisor so that we can be both counted as supervisors. And the other employee I have full-time isn't trained to do the position that I would like him to do. I can't send him to training because it won't be in his future life, so to speak. After this reorganization, it wouldn't make any sense to spend money to send him to training since he won't be doing that anyway. I can't hire the 2 openings that I do have. I can't put those out because of this pending merger. So my team is at a standstill. We have nowhere to go. I try to borrow help as best I can, and I did get Peg's approval to borrow Alex from the service desk to help me out. He was one of those employees that moved up. So, and this is just one case of where our department just is not able to move forward. We have other projects that are stalled because it would take people from both sides of Visalia, I guess you could say, because we're on both ends of Visalia, to get these projects to move. And the way it is right now, our department head, her hands are tied. And we're here to support her because we want her to plan to move forward. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to the other county departments that depend on us to provide our service to perform at 100% so that they can, serve the constituents of the county. And I don't know. We need your help. We need your help in order to move this off the table. The only way that we're going to be able to move forward is we need to be able to move forward so that we can work out the issues that we do have internally, because there are a lot of people that were either afraid of what was going to happen after this merger with their job. There are some that just are ready to hit the road and get going, and there are others that it took some time for them to swallow, most of what was going to happen. And the only way that that's going to play out is to move forward with this new merger. Thank you.
Madam Chair, for the benefit of the audience, the reorganization that's discussed is under California law a mandatory subject of bargaining. Your board does not have a choice about bargaining over this. And I absolutely sympathize with the situation that the employees find themselves in, but to a certain extent, these comments also need to be addressed to their union representatives rather than just this board.
Anybody else wishing to address the board? Under the public comment time? Thank you, those of you that came and especially waited to make sure that we heard your comments. We'll now move to item 37. Board of Supervisors matters. Does everybody understand we can't act on that? Just it's comment, and we just took comments. Supervisor Ennis?
I really don't have anything to say this week. Thank you.
Supervisor Shida?
Well, last week we had a big press conference about Operation Locust.
I thought you were going to say a big pest control issue, which
Well,
it
that
sort of
locust-
was.
That locust work fit in there
Locust.
well. Yeah.
And we've run a very successful operation. It involved over 14 different government law enforcement agencies. I think the one thing that has not been pointed out through the press is the fact that this operation took place because the time that the Board of Supervisors took to lobby electeds in Washington, D.C. All the board members participated in that lobbying in Washington, D.C., and I think it was very successful. We're often asked what we do out of town. Well, this is, thank goodness, a positive result of some of the things that we do in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento. This also involved lobbying Sacramento, trying to get the state involved in this program. But I'd like to thank Senator Feinstein for really heading up this movement to move the different agencies to work together on marijuana eradication. I'd like to thank our Representative Devin Nunes, who really opened the door for us to testify and to have appointments with different people in the federal government that we needed to meet with to promote a pilot program in Tulare County. Next Monday, I will be in Ventura riding the Ventura Railroad. The Ventura County purchased a railroad spur through their county, and it is now an active short-haul railroad. So
Make sure you buy a ticket for that ride.
Yeah, I know. We all have to buy tickets. And so the rail committee will be going to Ventura on Monday and talking to the people about how it's operated and the aspects. Is it profitable? Is it serving a strategic need? The San Joaquin Valley Railroad negotiations, we're just waiting. And that's all we can report at this point in time. In the road naming, what I brought up in a previous item is that I think I believe there's money out there from Homeland Security, from fire safe grants to name these roads that we have. And I think we need to go out, and I'm directing staff to look for the sources of money to do this, because this is a very dramatic public safety issue, especially with all the wildland fires we're having throughout the state. So I do believe there is money available for us to supplement the cost of naming these roads. So that's all I have.
Supervisor Worthy?
Well, just the points of some good things happening in the county. Yesterday, I went down to Tulare, and Road 80 construction is underway, and 10 years after first hearing about the plans, it's actually happening, and so it's exciting to see that occurring.
In your lifetime?
In my lifetime, well, yes, and I'm still on the board. And then the other thing was, coming in today, was Sequoia Field. Construction is well underway, and the reconstruction of the runway at Sequoia Field. And so we have some exciting things happening in Tulare County, and it's good to see them underway.
Supervisor Cox?
Keep those exciting things coming. I received an exciting phone call from Ted Smalley here a few days ago about the CTC awarding, I believe, tens of millions of dollars to Tulare County for its railroad crossing issues.
Well, staff recommending.
Well, staff recommending, but we're excited to see that move up to the top of the list.
Yeah, I got my instructions too.
The one for Goshen, the Betty Drive, I asked Ted, well, what does this mean in years? How many years could it move this up? And he said it could move it up 6 to 8 years ahead of where it's currently scheduled, which could mean a lot to industrial users out there in the Visalia Industrial Park. So that's exciting news to see that, and one of the things that was mentioned, because of the Measure R match funding that we have is what could make that thing happen. So Measure R pays off again. Very excited to see that happen. We continue to work on several step-up activities throughout the county. Ivanhoe, Dinuba, Visalia, Exeter. We started discussions real briefly last week with Porterville as well. So a lot of good things happening in that area. We have a lot of positive feedback about the events that are scheduled and the lives that they're touching. And I've always said that all we have to do is change one. Now we won't know which one we change each year, but I'm hoping that it's dozens or even hundreds with the numbers of kids and people we have coming to the events. There's no way to really quantify that. I think the hundreds of thousands of dollars we'll save in the future from housing these young people in our facility, but I think it's a very successful program, and I think we're getting the branding and marketing that we've hoped for over the last year, and it seems to be coming to fruition. So I want to thank the board for its support and all efforts throughout the county that have been taking place, and very positive things happening.
Thank you, Supervisor. I don't have anything specific to talk to, certainly nothing that's positive. State budget, not positive, ongoing, going nowhere. But if I hear anything, I'll let you know. The display board that we have in front of us, the Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park, reminds me that in October, the park will celebrate its centennial, and there's lots of plans and lots of ideas going around. The county's been asked to participate in some way, shape, or form as some kind of either a sponsor or and preliminarily we are working on holding an event. That centennial will happen on Saturday and Sunday on the weekend. We are in the planning stages of holding a reception the Friday night before with some historical speakers. Mrs. Royal, I know you're familiar with Mrs. Royal, granddaughter of Colonel Allensworth, and It will be held in Visalia, though. It will be held at our new library. So we've gone over the logistics. Some folks from the state have come down, and it will be this board's and the county's intention to provide some historical perspective and also hold an event in conjunction with the 100th anniversary. So I think that's all I have, Council. Unfortunately, I know we have need for closed session.
Well, we do, but we have some items that are off your closed session agenda. Items B and C are off your closed session agenda. Items A through J remain. I do anticipate an announcement.
Right. I want to thank everybody that was here with us today. And the board will now adjourn to closed session.
I don't saw I. She said J.
Everybody and the Ag Commissioner.
Sitting in my chair.
You didn't even yawn, Gary.
You got a good night's sleep last night.
Reporting out of closed session today, Tuesday, August 12, 2008, by Kathleen Bales, Lane County Council. On closed session, agenda item I, Bennett versus McElhaney. The Board of Supervisors voted to provide a defense to this action and to defend the individually named employee defendants with the reservation of rights. On motion of Supervisor Cox, seconded by Supervisor Ennis, on a unanimous vote. There are no other announcements.